All right. Tough to follow David. He's such a good speaker. So I took the liberty of changing the title of this talk, and no is a complete sentence is a very valid point and something that you'll hear from other people, and we'll get to it in this talk. But this really is something that is challenging and that we have to learn how to do. And we usually give disclosures at the beginning of a talk. I have no financial disclosures here, but I will say I am really good at helping other people say no. I'm going to 8 consecutive weekends of urology meetings. I'm right in the middle of that right now, and so I still struggle with this myself. And so I say that this is a practice. It's something we've got to learn and something we've got to work to together. But I also say there's people in this room, Trinity Biblical sitting over there. I know I can't do this myself. I call Trinity all the time, help me say no, right? Why am I struggling with this? And you can rely on other people. I know a lot of people who rely on me to do that, so I'll preface it kind of with that. So let's start with why we would say no in the first place. And so how many people heard this and then they started their careers, right? This is what we were all taught. This is what our chairs and our mentors, everything, you should say yes to absolutely everything. That is so false. That is not where we should be today. And so why do we have this incredible fear of saying no? We worry we could miss out on this awesome opportunity. We don't want people to think we're selfish and we're not willing to help them. There's definitely professional FOMO, right? We see other people doing things, we want to be a part of that. We've got all these awful acronyms, and we're scared of all of them. Rocking the boat, stirring things up, burning bridges with our mentors and the people who've helped pave the way for us to be where we are. We don't want to offend people, and some of us genuinely want to help others. But on the flip side, we've got to think about what no enables us to do. And first of all, you have to be courageous to say no. It's not easy. But it allows us to eliminate things in our lives and allows us to focus on what we want to do. Yes, we could be worried about a great opportunity, but saying no allows us to choose the next great opportunity for us. There's something in the business world called opportunity cost, and that just means you have to sacrifice something every single time you say yes. So if you want to take on a new commitment, you're going to have to say no to something else. And importantly, we have to be courageous to separate the choice from the relationship and really believe that the people who truly care about us are still going to care about us whether we say yes or no. So this was the old paradigm, and now what I try and do as a leader and what we should be trying to do is say this: every time you say yes, you're going to have to say no to something else and help our people make those choices. So I love this figure, and I think it really helps us understand it, that you can either let your energy kind of diffuse out all over the place, or you can point the direction in which you focus that energy. And we talked a little bit about that talk yesterday. I talked about with mindfulness, if you were there. And I love to quote Seneca here, and this is not a new concept. This is an ancient concept. And the Stoic philosopher said that when we protect our time, our energy, and our attention, and we direct it wisely, we actually can be more present for meaningful pursuits. We can explore people and places, and our entire experience can be better if we direct our energy. A different analogy, there's lots of different ways to swim, right? You can tread water. It's a great way to keep your head above the pool, but it's not a good way to get across the pool. And if you really want to make direction, you need to put your head down and focus on a direction. And it's tiring. It's exhausting on our brains. And we have limited resources. We have limited cognitive resources. And there's something called decision fatigue. We get tired. Our brains get tired. And there's really good data to support this. Judges are least likely to offer parole later in the day. In the medical world, we make more prescribing errors in the afternoon. Orthopedic surgeons, as intelligent as they are, book less surgeries in the afternoon than they do in the morning. Right? There is absolute decision fatigue that comes with what we do. And so we need to protect that. Many people have heard of Maslow and the hierarchy of needs. I'm not going to get into the weeds on this, but the basic concept here is we have limited energy. And if we want to climb up this pyramid, and if we want to work on what he called self-actualization, these are kind of higher level functions, we need to take care of the bottom to climb to the top. And this is just kind of my translation of Maslow into medicine, right? And so if you want to work on papers and academics and building your practice or leadership, you have to make sure you take care of the things at the bottom. And if you're saying yes to everything, you've diffused yourself out by the time you've gotten halfway up this pyramid. And this is a really fascinating study. This was a science paper. When cell phones first came out, they would message people multiple times a day and say, what are you doing at this moment and how happy are you? And what's really fascinating is I highlighted the things in yellow that are really mindful tasks, things that where you're really focused on one thing at a time: working, grooming, self-care, doing housework, praying or worship, exercising, lovemaking, things where you're really focused. And these are when humans are the most happiest, when we're focused on one pursuit. We're not trying to multitask. We're not trying to do multiple things. So really focusing on one thing also makes us happy. So these are the reasons we should say no. First of all, recognize it's scary, and you have to be courageous to say no. Our brain power is a limited resource. When we are unfocused in our pursuits, it's an inefficient use of that limited energy. It requires cognitive, emotional, and psychological energy to do these things, and to climb up that ladder and work on higher level tasks, we need to preserve some of that. And lastly, when we focus on the things that we truly enjoy, it makes us happy. So it brings us into the second part of this. How are we actually going to say no? So this is my kind of checklist, my steps through this, and things I work with some of my coaches and the people I help with this. Still trying to work on it myself, as I said. So let's start with, first, how do we say yes? So purpose defines yes, and you heard me speak a little bit yesterday about purpose. So I showed this slide. Every person I coach, every person I work with, the first thing we work on is identifying what brings them fulfillment. So lots of ways to do that. Second is putting it in the context of your own life, and then creating your priority. Number one priority. You can only have one priority. You can certainly prioritize things under that. I showed you this picture yesterday. These are Sarah and my 2 girls. I'm on the red eye tonight, so I can spend all day Sunday with them tomorrow. And it makes it tricky when we think about these things and putting them fully in priorities. And as I said, I'm in 8 urologic meetings over the next 2 months. And when we think about those kinds of things, I'll give just kind of a good example here. There are some financial reasons to do that, right? Sometimes we get paid to be present at meetings or for our time. But nowhere on my priority list is finances. So sometimes I have to recenter myself and saying, if I'm going to this meeting because I'm getting paid, I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. If that's the only reason. That's not why I'm here. I'm not getting paid. I'm here because Helen's awesome and she asked me to be here, right? And I'm here to share with you guys. So it just kind of helps you really kind of put those things in perspective. Create your mission statement, put it in writing, and cultivate your passions. And I'll show you my mission statement once again. This is currently where it is: to be the best father and husband I can be, and to make lasting improvements to the management of cancers. And I know this is not a cancer meeting, but this opportunity right here speaking to you is helping me be a good father and husband because I'm working on wellness. I'm helping on working you. It helps me be well-rounded, and it's helping me improve our urologic community. So that's a long process of how to figure out yes and no. Here's the quick one. If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no, right? So when somebody asks you to do something, if your first reaction isn't, oh man, that is super exciting, I can't wait to go to Scottsdale, then your answer is probably no. And this is deep-rooted biology. We think what makes us unique as humans is that we have this ability to make decisions. Every organism has the ability to make decisions. That is in our central part of our brains. The oldest part of our brains helps us make decisions. Decisions are actually emotional. We know them right away. What makes us unique as humans is that we've got a frontal cortex that helps us rationalize these things and sometimes talks us out of a good answer, right? Sometimes we can rationalize and affirm that choice for yes or no, and sometimes we can talk ourselves out of it. This is why you're trained when you were taking your standardized tests. If you don't know what the answer is, go with the first thing you thought of, because we're often correct, and our emotional brain is telling us the correct answer. And these are 2 great books if you want to try and figure out how to kind of parse your life down and make great decisions. They both have the same conclusions with slightly different ways, but our identity helps us really do that, get to that center brain where things become innate and emotional rather than necessarily cognitive. First, if we understand who we are, and that was the whole purpose, self-understanding, or why we're doing things, it really helps us get to these easy yeses and nos. So, second part of this is managing your to-do list. We all have one of these. Paper, electronic, however you like to do that. My to-do list now usually is an index card, but on that index card I have a Post-it nearby. And my Post-it very clearly has on it my priorities and some of my goals. So I showed you what those were before, and here's kind of what it looks like, right? The first thing is dad, husband. So as I'm looking at my list, all right, what order do I need to put things in? Where do they go in rank? And what can I absolutely cross off? If it doesn't help you meet your priority or any of your goals, why are you doing it? You're doing somebody else's work then, right? Do the things that are important to you and help put them in order. This is another way to think about it. This is the classic Eisenhower matrix, right? What's urgent and what's important? And in the upper left corner, if it's urgent and important, do it. Drop everything else. Do it now. If it's not urgent and not important, don't even think about it and don't feel bad not doing it. It doesn't need to be done. And then in the corners, you've got the ability to decide or delegate, help get other people to help you finish those things. And then the monkey on your back, I don't know how many people have heard this analogy, right? But we've all got monkeys on our back. These are the tasks and the things that we need to do that we don't necessarily enjoy doing it, that we don't necessarily enjoy doing them. David just gave a great talk about the electronic health record and how we can help get some of that monkey off our back by delegating some of those tasks to AI or some of the web resources out there. The other big thing you need to realize is email, think of it this way, email is somebody else asking you to do their work. Right? There's some communication and things that happen, but most of the time you're getting an email, it's somebody else asking you to do something that needs to be done. And it's not necessarily your task. So make sure you're filtering those things appropriately, deciding what is truly important to you when you're thinking about the monkey on your back. Really important is subtracting, taking things out of your life. And so how do you do this? Cut your losses. We've all been here. We've been working on projects or something that's just not going anywhere. And there's something called the sunken bias fallacy, where you've put so much time and effort in so you don't want to give it up. Get rid of it. It's holding you back from doing things that are meaningful. We can edit or condense, which is slightly different. This is kind of parsing things down so you can be more productive. It's not necessarily doing less with more, but it's getting rid of the more and actually doing fewer things. Set boundaries. My calendar has on it from 7 to 9 a.m. every morning, no meetings. Angie, my assistant, is amazing. She has freedom to schedule meetings any other time of the day that I'm not in the OR or clinic. But if she wants an appointment from 7 to 9, somebody needs to talk to me about that, because that's the time I read and write the best, and I want that time protected. We also similarly can create buffers. The classic one for surgeons is the operating room. Hey, how long is it going to take you to do that nephrectomy? Oh, it's going to take an hour. No, it's not. It's going to take an hour and a half. Give yourself 50% more buffer so that way you're not running into your issues with yes and no and trying to commit to. Give yourself a little bit of extra time and space when you're saying yes. Get rid of constraints, and this is tough. These are people that hold us back sometimes. These are systematic things that hold us back. You get rid of them. And lastly, focus on small wins. You don't need to make huge differences to be successful. Small wins over time is often better than one large victory. And so the last thing that we'll end on here is what I call now the gracious no. How do we actually say no? And so this is kind of the things I want you all to think about. First thing, most importantly, is be honest, direct, and straightforward. There's nothing wrong with no, and that's kind of the no is a complete sentence statement here. Don't lie to people. Don't make up excuses. Just be honest and say, this is not for me, no. You don't need to offer an apology or explanation. In fact, you shouldn't say sorry, because you're not sorry. It's the right thing to do for you. An explanation is sometimes reasonable and helps us in our human interactions, right? But you don't have to do that. And sometimes you're going to spend more time writing in the email all of the reasons that you can't do it, rather than just saying no and moving on to the next task that, once again, would be more meaningful for you. Second, don't procrastinate. This gets back to that limbic brain part. You know this answer right away. And when you know the answer right away, just answer it. It's done. That task is done, and you're on the next most important thing on your to-do list, rather than, once again, waffling on this idea. Replace no with another word. What exactly do I mean by there? Well, you can absolutely be gracious to people. Thank them. I would love to do this, but I'm tied up. And sometimes just offer an awkward pause. Right? And sometimes just pausing lets people know you're not too enthusiastic about this. And sometimes when you ask someone and there's an awkward pause, they're telling you something, whether they realize it or not. So use the awkward pause and think about the awkward pause when you hear it. It's okay to say follow up at another time. I don't have bandwidth at this moment. Come back to me in 6 months if you still need help with this project. I would love to. Right? That's a very appropriate no. We can do a better job of recommending alternative people. And we really should be advocates for others. First of all, think, wow, I'm really excited to talk about penile cancer. No, you're not. What if you know nothing about penile cancer? There's other people who know a ton about that disease and could do a better job than you, especially if they're up and coming, they're young, especially if they've got strong interest in that disease, and if they're not someone who's traditionally not given an opportunity in the space, create that space for them. And then lastly, don't be afraid to provide feedback. I'm sorry, I'm not interested in this topic. Not only do I not want to review this paper for the Journal of Urology, I don't want to review any papers for the Journal of Urology on this topic. It doesn't make sense for me. Or, listen, you want me to write a book chapter about what? No one's going to read that book chapter. Not only should I not do this, you should really think about changing that book chapter to something people are going to read. So remember, and my last slide here, this is an evolution. This is a phylogenetic tree from a cancer. But in the beginning of your career, you are going to say yes to more things, and that's okay. But as you figure out what you're good at and what you love, and as you identify your purpose and priorities, you're going to get more focused in the things you actually say yes. And this is a wonderful quote from Ella Bhatt, who is an activist in post-Gandhi India, talking about the virtue of simplicity. And I love it in the middle there where she says, the life approach is simple. We don't need to lie. There's no reason to quarrel or steal, be envious, anger, abuse, or kill. And we're not doing those things in academic or clinical medicine, we hope anyway. But there's no reason to be stressed about these things and create animosity over them. It's easy to say no and let somebody else say yes. So saying yes to everything is a false narrative. Saying no is an essential skill. We can learn to say no by identifying our purpose and priorities, managing our own to-do list, and utilizing the gracious no, and evolve it. It takes courage. It takes time. It's always going to be a practice. So thanks.
Thanks, Ben.